Okay, welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper, and my compadre, Susan Campbell, is not here with us, unfortunately. She got off at 2 o'clock p.m., and we're doing this a little bit later in the day. So it's just going to be me and my other partner, Todd Martin. He's our audio engineer. How you doing today, Todd?
Awesome. Doing good.
Thanks for filling in for Susan. Need a little help on the outside over there, so thank you very much. It's kind of weird looking through the window at you. It seems like you're so far away, but yet you're so close.
Yeah, they've separated us now. They know the dynamic, so they have us behind glass. They put me like in a cage.
Yeah, this might be good if we had COVID or something. We wouldn't be, worried about breathing on each other now.
Yes.
So, hey, how was the holiday season when it comes to shopping? Was Santa good to you, and how were you, spending wise?
Well, we said we're not going big this Christmas, and then, we kind of did.
Yeah.
So,
it always happens that way.
It kind of spiraled a little bit.
Yeah. And you took a little out-of-town vacation, which kind of gobbled up a lot.
Yeah, we had some expensive meals.
Yes, you sure did. Yeah. That's another story for another time. But let's just say he went to Vegas and at some very expensive, pricey, well-known restaurants. But then again, Todd, you are the money man, so it's no problem with you, I know.
Yeah, we're double income, no kids, so that's how we roll.
Yeah, just the cats to take care of.
Yeah, they're pretty self-sufficient.
Yeah, not bad. Nobody to watch kids. You just have to, I guess, leave out a huge litter box.
Yeah, we put out bowls of food and bowls of water, and we have our little security cameras so we can watch them, and then I don't know. They're fine for a couple of days.
You
can't do that with kids.
And then they want you to come home. Hey, listen, today we're talking a little bit about financial fitness. And I know a lot of people are probably getting their credit card statements. Maybe they've already received one, or they will be receiving their statements from, say, December. A lot of purchasing was done in December because, of course, Christmas and all the holiday shopping and celebrating. So today on the On Your Side podcast, we're talking to Kelsa Dickey. She's a financial coach with Financial Fitness here in the Scottsdale area. How are you doing today, Kelsa?
I'm great. How are you?
We're doing well. Thank you for being on the On Your Side podcast. I'm just going to jump right into it and say, how's your credit card situation? Did you overdo it, or were you okay?
Well, I would definitely not be leading by example if I went over budget for the holidays. So I stuck to my budget, but I do feel like even if you're like Todd and maybe you overspent a little bit, or if you stuck to a budget like me, December is a high volume month. There's so many more transactions in the month of December that it can be overwhelming for that reason. Even if you stuck to a reasonable dollar amount, it can just feel really overwhelming going into the new year.
I know a lot of people wanted to stick to a budget, and here on Your Side, we always advocate stay to a budget. But people get into that buying situation. It just kind of spins out of control. Depending on the source that you talk to or look up, the average household credit card debt right now, $8,000. Again, depending on the source, it may be higher or lower, but we'll just start with the $8,000 number. And per person, it's about $3,000 credit card debt per person. You got to add in the average interest rate for credit cards right now, a whopping 22%. So, Kelsa, let's just say some of our listeners out there have a couple of credit cards, maybe 3, 4, 5, and they kind of spread it around. They got $2,000 on one, $3,000 on another, and it just kind of goes up from there. What's your best advice to start tackling credit card debt when you have several cards?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is those numbers that you just shared, I think are very surprising to me. What I see is actually numbers way higher than that. I feel like that $8,000 average is quite low compared to what I see. I just had 2 clients last week, both with over $50,000 in credit card debt. So just for anybody listening to this, I think it's really important not to compare. So if you're higher than that, don't tell yourself that you can't get out of it or that, oh my God, I'm doomed or anything like that. If you're below that, don't tell yourself like, oh, I'm actually doing okay. I have nothing to worry about, right? So if you're in debt, it's going to be a good time to just create a fresh start. So if you've got a few different credit cards, the first thing that I want you to do is just decide now that you're going to take inventory of them. You're just going to look at them. You're going to figure out, what do I have? Some people might not even know the number. So when it comes to that $8,000 number, they're like, am I good? Am I not good? I actually have no idea. So that's the first thing, is really just gaining some inventory of where you stand, looking at the balances, the interest rates, and then the payment amount. And then my recommendation, first and foremost, is make the minimum payments on all of them. If you're not doing that, that's a really great place to start. Is at least just get them paid on time and just do the minimums to start. And then actually my next recommendation is to get money in savings first. So instead of looking at the credit cards and trying to pay that down, I always say the number one culprit of credit card debt is not the actual whammy that happens, but it's the whammy that happens that you don't have the money to pay for otherwise, right? So what we need to do is get money in savings so that when these one-time expenses or the unexpected happens, you have money set aside to pay for those. Otherwise, you create this vicious cycle where I'm paying down the debt and then something happens and it goes back on the debt and then I'm paying it down, and that can be like really emotionally damaging. So actually the first thing after you take inventory is to put a little bit of money in savings so that you're stopping that cycle from happening.
So let me just reiterate. So you're actually advising people that if they have, say, 5 credit cards, make the minimum payments, keep the bear, off your shoulders, and then take what money you would have put in the credit cards and try to put it into savings. Just start building a little bit of a barrier there, a little bit of a savings.
Yeah, and here's why. If you think about it, if I've got an extra $500 this month, right, for whatever reason, maybe I worked some overtime or didn't have any one-time expenses this month, so I've got a little bit of extra, and I throw it towards my credit card. I'm going to pay down my credit card by $500, and I take the money out of my checking account and pay that towards my credit card. But then tomorrow my car breaks down. How am I going to pay for that car repair? I've got to repair my car. I've got to get to and from work, take the kids to school, that kind of thing. I end up putting that expense right back on a credit card. So while it can sometimes feel like slower progress to put money in savings first, it's actually true progress. And like I said, it's not just financially better, but it actually makes you feel more in control, because then when your car breaks down, you have the money set aside for it. It's not emotionally damaging of like, oh, I got to put this back on my credit card. Dang it, I just paid that down and now it's right back up. You actually feel good with money. You're like, oh my God, I had the money set aside. This is awesome. I'm going to use this money for savings, and then I can get it right back up again. Once you get a little bit money in savings, then you can start throwing more towards that debt that you have.
Is there a set amount? Is there any kind of formula there that you should reach into savings that should make you feel comfortable to start paying down the credit card?
I wish I could give somebody a set number, but here's a couple questions you can ask yourself to sort of determine the best number for you. How old is your car? Some of the whammies that you might have happen. So do you have really good health insurance and you don't have to worry about a $500 medical bill or something like that? So looking ahead, let's say 6 months or to the coming year, what are some of the whammies that you think could happen, and try to get money set aside for that. The other thing you want to look at is your current financial position and your income. If you are like Todd, right, and you have dual income, no kids, you probably have 2 sets of income coming in, so you can sort of weather the storm in a month, even if you didn't have money in savings. You probably have a little of extra discretionary cash flow kind of thing to cover a car repair or something like that. And yet other people might be the exact opposite, where they really do live truly paycheck to paycheck. And it's tough, because the tricky thing is, the tighter your cash flow every month, the tighter you live paycheck to paycheck, the more money you actually need in savings, because that savings is there to help you weather those storms. So this is where it can be really helpful to sell some things that you're not using right now. If you just got a bunch of gifts for Christmas, take some of the things you've got from before Christmas that you no longer need and sell it, and try to get a little extra money and stick that money in savings, do a garage sale, something like that. I would say, anywhere from $500 to $2,500 is probably the amount that like an everyday household probably wants in savings, depending, again, what types of expenses do you have coming up? Do you have kids? How much extra cash flow do you have each month, and that sort of thing?
Okay, so we have some money set aside in savings, and at the same time, we've been paying the minimum amounts on all of our credit cards just to keep them current, which is a great idea. Now, let's just say our listeners have 5 credit cards with interest rates ranging from 20 all the way to 30%. And I know that sounds high, but some of these department store cards, they do go up to 30%. How do you tackle that? Is there a formula to pay off credit cards? Do you go with the highest balance? Do you go with the highest interest rate? What do you do?
Great question. I actually have an article on my website. It's got 4 different debt payoff methods, and it really depends on the person, and they're all right. So the one thing I like people to know is that if you are paying down your debt, you are doing it right. And don't worry necessarily about right versus wrong. We tend to overcomplicate the world of personal finance and make people feel like there's only one right way to do it. The first approach is to pay off the one with the lowest balance first. This is called the snowball approach. So you got them in order, right? You took that inventory, that's how you started, and you rank them in order of the smallest balance to highest balance, and you target the one with the lowest balance first. That works really great if you've got just a couple of small debts and you can wipe them out pretty quickly. Think about 5 credit cards as clutter, right? That's digital clutter. If you can wipe out 2 of them, that's 2 less payments you're making every month, 2 less statements you're getting, 2 less emails, that kind of thing. So it can be really helpful if you've got 2 small balances, but not everybody has that, right? You might have 5 credit cards and they all have $1,000 on it. So there's really not one that you would prioritize in that way. So the second approach is the one with the highest interest rate. So you would put them in order of interest rate, but the highest would be first, all the way down to the lowest. If you have a payday loan or a title loan or one of those really horribly high interest rates like that, then I would absolutely look to prioritize that one first. And so this order would work best for you. This is called the avalanche approach. And this is sort of favored by people like Susie Orman. This was her favorite approach. The snowball was favored by Dave Ramsey.
So
the third approach.
Let me go back to the snowball approach where you pay off the credit card with the lowest balance. What does that do to a person's psyche? I mean, that's a mental thing right there when you're able to pay off 1 or 2 credit cards. Doesn't that kind of make you feel good and really want you to pay off additional credit cards? Isn't that really good for your mental health?
Yeah, so this is where that has been the philosophy for a very long time, Gary, that is what that snowball approach has been believed to have happened for people. And in some sense, yes, that is what happened. So if you have 5 credit cards and you have 4 of them at $2,000 each and 1 at $200, get that $200 one out of there. You can probably do it pretty quickly. It feels rewarding. You feel validated, like I'm onto something, I'm doing this right. And that's sort of the idea behind it. But you can actually create that feeling with other methods as well. So let's say you have 5 credit cards and they each have $1,000 on them, and one of them is at a 100% interest rate because it's one of those title loans, and you have a whole bunch of other ones at 22% interest rate. Actually, the feeling of validation and I'm proud of myself and I'm feeling really good about what I'm doing, that enthusiasm, and essentially your buy-in. What you're talking about, Gary, is buy-in, right? We're trying to create buy-in. You can create buy-in in all of the debt payoff methods. So you could pay off the highest interest rate one, and that one be the one that's causing you the biggest heartache, the most form of stress. That's the one that's keeping you up at night. And by getting that out of someone's life, they're creating that same sense of buy-in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely it does. Okay, so before I cut you off, go to the third approach.
Yes. A third approach is the highest payment. So this works really well. You're going to rank your debts by payment amount. This makes total sense if you've got like a really big truck loan, let's say a $700 a month payment on a truck loan. And then you've got all these other ones at $29 or $55 payment, that sort of thing. Then targeting them on the highest payment, especially if you have a really tight budget. So if you are truly one of those people that's living paycheck to paycheck, you want to free up the most cash flow every month. That then gives you the opportunity to weather those storms, right? You're freeing up $750 a month, let's say. So you want to prioritize the one with the highest payment amount first, especially if you only have like 2 years left on your car loan. It doesn't matter what the interest rate or anything like that is. You're making very fast progress. So the sooner you pay it off, the sooner you're going to free up a lot of money. Okay, so that's the third payment or third option.
Okay. Is there a
fourth
fourth
option? There's 4. So total 4. So the fourth option is the one that has sort of the most emotional baggage for you. So again, let's say you're that person and like all your 5 credit cards, they're the same dollar amount, pretty similar interest rates, and pretty similar payment amounts. Well, then how do you choose which one you pay off? I would recommend targeting the one that you sort of look at it and you're like, oh, that decision I made, I regret it. I've got buyer's remorse. And what it does is it sort of puts you in that old mindset of like, I'm bad with money. I made a bad decision. I'm dumb, right? Like that inner critic can really come out every time you look at that debt. So by prioritizing that one and getting it out of your life, it's like shedding that weight, right? It's sort of like being able to move on. And so again, you can create that buy-in by sort of releasing yourself from that baggage. And this is where you always want to look at the financial impact as well as sort of the emotional or mental impact that your money is having on you too.
How do you feel about these credit card offers with 0% interest? Is that a good idea to move all your credit card balances to a card that has 0% interest for say 18 months?
I'm going to say it is a good idea sometimes, in the sense that it is not a solution to get out of debt. So if that's what you're doing it for, it is not going to be the thing that gets you out of debt. But if you are making progress on your debts already, so prove that to yourself first. Prove to yourself that you are reducing the balances on your debt. And once you see that, then switching your debts to a 0% offer can simply speed up your progress and buy you more time. So it might shave off 3 months, let's say, of your debt payoff plan or something like that, by saving you some interest. Where people go wrong with that strategy is they think that that is going to be the solution. They think, I'm going to do this and then it's going to make getting out of debt easy. It doesn't make it easy. It just saves you some interest while you're getting out of debt, but prove to yourself that you're going to get out of debt no matter what.
Let's say some consumers have a $30,000 credit card debt, but they have a lot of equity in their house. Should they tap into that equity to pay off the credit card balance, or is that a bad idea?
I think that is a bad idea, typically, especially because we're not often changing our behaviors. And it sort of becomes a out of sight, out of mind sort of situation where I have this one debt. We don't feel the pressure of it. And I know we might not want the pressure. I understand that we don't want credit card pressure. We don't like the stress that it causes us. But our goal is to use that as our motivation. And sometimes we remove that motivation by putting it on something like our house. And I want your home to stay protected. I want that to be sort of your sanctuary, and I don't ever want that to be in jeopardy.
Yeah, because you really want to train yourself, for the lack of a better phrase. You want to train yourself on how to pay off debt and then realize, oh, I was able to do it. Now I need to stay out of it. I stay out of trouble. But if you tap into your home equity, it's a quick fix, and you're like patting yourself on the back, but then you go back into those old habits again, and you're going to find yourself in trouble. So listen, Kelsa, if people want to find out more about you or your company, Financial Fitness, just tell us where they can find more information on you, websites, social media, anything like that.
Yeah, check out fiscalfitnessphx.com. So it's fiscal, FISCAL, fitness, PHX.com. And like I said, I've got an assessment they can take where they can figure out which one of those debt payoff methods will work best for them. So it asks them 10 questions based on their personality, the debts that they have specifically, how much they have, their interest rates, and it will help them choose which one of those payoff methods is probably best for them. All
right. Listen, Kelsa, thanks so much for being on the On Your Side podcast. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I'm a little bit smarter when it comes to money. So thanks so much. And we will be circling back with you again sometime soon, okay?
Okay, I look forward to it. Thanks, Gary.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.